finding an endpoint of a segment given the other endpoint and the midpoint. All right, so I have done videos before about just the midpoint theorem, which, here, if I turn my pen on here. So this is the midpoint formula. You add the x's together, divide by 2. Add the y's together, divide by 2. What that does is it snaps to the middle, so it'll find the midpoint for you if you plug these in. I tend to do it where I have the endpoints, and I just go like this. So in this case, it's not going to work out as nicely. You add them together. So here are your x's, here are your y's, like this. And then just remember, it's divided by 2. Okay, and that's going to give you whatever number they've already given you here. So in this case, the end result would be -5 because they're telling me it's -5, and the end result would be 2. So I tend to stack them instead of putting this in this equation, which is just kind of my easy way of, and now I know the x's are lined up, the y's are lined up. Don't have to worry about x2, y2, you know. I just know these are my x's, these are my y's. So in order to get -5 here, I know if I divided by 2, then I must have started with -10. I'm just going backwards. So I would multiply these two to go backwards. So I'm going to multiply, and I get -10. I'm going to multiply here, and I would get 4. So this tells me when I added what I got when I added straight down. So if I got -10 adding straight down, and I started with -2, well, then this question mark must have been -8, because -2 plus -2, or sorry, -8 plus -2 is -10. And then 4, I started with -2, and now I have +4. So they're opposites, which tells me that this must have been a bigger positive than 4 by 2. So I want to go backwards, and I want to give those -2 back to the 4, which means that this would have been a 6, because 6 minus 2 gets me 4. So I hope that makes sense. I'll do it both ways. So I'll show you the equation also, so that you can see, and we can scroll down here and see how they plugged it in. So they've plugged in -2 and x2. Is here's -2, and then they don't have x2. So they're saying this is point 1, this is point 2. And then they have -2 for y, and then y2, because again, y2 is question mark. And then they know that the midpoint for the x is, the coordinate is -5. So they say, well, this red one equals -5. And the blue one here is going to equal 2, because that's my y coordinate. So it's the same thing. It's just kind of slightly different steps. These ones are being plugged in, and then you work out the equation. You're going to do the same thing. So if you notice, they multiplied by 2 here. That's how they got the 2 out from underneath, and they have -10 here. We did that same step first. And then they did the same thing here. 2 times 2, they got 4. That gets rid of the fraction. Look at that. There's my 4. So it's the same thing. I set up my equation, and then I work from the bottom up. Normally, I work from the top down because I have these, and I just add and then divide by 2. Well, in this case, I'm missing something, and I have the end result. So I have to go from the bottom, and I have to bounce my way back up until I find my missing piece. So we'll do that first one. I'll show you both methods, and then I'm probably going to end up using my method just because to me, it lines it up a little better, so I prefer that one. All right, so for this one, I'm going to go like this, and I'll do the equation first. So I have x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And in case I didn't cover that very well on the first page here, the 1 and the 2 just refer to point 1 and point 2. That's all it means. So if this is point 1 and this is point 2, then you just have x1, y1, x2, y2, and this is the midpoint. So remember, this formula, or this little expression, gives us the midpoint coordinate for x. This one gives us the midpoint coordinate for y. So when I start plugging it in, so if I say this is point 1, my x coordinate is a question mark. So I'm just going to write x1 plus x2 is 6 divided by 2. I know that's going to equal this one here. So I have my first equation. My second equation, I have y1, which again is a question mark here. So I have y1 plus y2 is 2 right here, divided by 2 equals, I know that's going to equal this coordinate right here, or this part of the y, the y portion of this coordinate. I'll say it that way, so I'm saying it correctly. And we get -2. And I'm going to scroll down just a little to give me some more room. So now I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides, because that's how I get rid of this fraction. I have x1 plus 6 equals 1 times 2, which is 2. And then I subtract 6 from both sides. And I have x1, 6 minus 6 cancels, equals 2 minus 6. They're opposites. I'm going to subtract my bigger number, which is 6, decides my sign. Since my bigger number is negative, it's -4. So I know I started with a -4 here. And now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I have times 2 times 2. That cancels. I have y1 plus 2 equals -4 minus 2 minus 2. And my y1 comes down. 2 minus 2 cancels. And I have -4 plus 2. They're the same. They're both negatives. So I add and keep the negative sign. So this was a -6. So this was my beginning coordinate. So if I do the same thing, but in my stacked method, because I just want to show you both real quick. This, 6, 2, okay, perfect. You add, that will give you a number, but remember for midpoint, I have to divide by 2 because I want to find the middle, and that's dividing by 2 helps me find the middle. And then I know, once I divide by 2, I know I'm going to end up with 1 for my x and -2 for my y. This was the coordinate they gave me right here. So I know this is these are my steps. So now I'm going to go backwards. I divided by 2, so I'm going to multiply. 1 times 2 gives me 2. 2 times 2, I'm just going to go backwards on both. So -2 times 2 gives me -4. Now I need to figure out what question mark needs to be in order to add to 6 to get 2. So in this case, I want it to be a -4. And the reason for that is I want them to be opposites. 6 is already positive. And so that means as long as my answer is smaller than 6, my answer will be positive. And I want it to be a positive 2, so I want to take 4 away from 6. That'll get me 2. All right, and then this one, I want -4. I'm starting with 2. So I need something that's bigger than 4 that's already negative. So I have negative, and then I want to take 2 from it, but still end up with 4. Well, that sounds like 6 to me, because if I take 2 away from 6, I get 4, and if it's negative, my answer is negative. So the part up top is a little trickier just because you have to figure out, well, what fits in there. But both methods work just fine. This method to me just seems, it is a little bit longer, but this is on the left here, this is the correct method to get the answers. But we got the same 2 answers either way. All right, -4 and -6. Check. Yay. All right, let's go to the next one. And I feel like changing up my color here. Clear. Okay, so again, you can set it up where you have 0.1, 0.2, and you can go x1, which is 1, plus x2, which is, we don't know, it's question mark, divided by 2, and that's going to equal this x, the x portion of the midpoint coordinate, so 4. And then you can also do the same thing for y. So you have -2 plus, we don't know. Oops. Help if I wrote a y there, not an x. Boop. y2 divided by 2, and that's going to equal the y portion of the coordinate here, like that. And then I would go through and do all my steps. So I'd multiply by 2, and then I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to multiply by 2, and these cancel. I have 1 plus x2 equals 4 times 2, which is 8. Now I need to subtract this 1 because I want to get this x2 by itself so that I know what it is. 1 minus 1 cancels. X2 comes down. I have 8 minus 1, which is 7. And then this one, I'm going to go times 2, and I'm going to cancel. Negative 2 plus y squared equals negative 8. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And then I'm going to add 2 to both sides because, again, now I want to get y2 by itself. Negative 2 plus 2 cancels. I have y2 equals negative 8 plus 2. They're opposites. So I subtract. The bigger number, which is 8, decides my sign. Bigger number is negative, so my answer is negative. So this coordinate started on 7, negative 6. All right, so I'm hoping this does make sense as far as we're just plugging things in, coordinate 1, coordinate 2. But again, I like my little method here just because, like I said, it lines everything up for you. So you have your x's, you have your y's. I don't need to worry about what y2, y1 means. I just have to make sure I set this up correctly for this one. So normally I'd add straight down and then divide by 2 and I'd have my answer. Like I said, we don't know this piece, so I can't just add straight down. So I need to take into account what they've given me, and I know I will get 4, negative 4 when I'm all done. So I divided by 2. I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to multiply by 2 on both of these. So I'm multiplying, get negative 8. So now I need to know 1 plus something is going to get me 8. So what would I need to add? Oh, well, I need to add 7 in order to get 8. Negative 2 plus something is going to get me negative 8 here. So negative 2 plus what? Well, if it's a bigger negative, that means they were both negative, and I added them together to get 8. Well, 2 plus 6 would get me 8. So there you go. I got the exact same coordinate that I did here. So same steps, again, just different methods. All right, so 7 and negative 6. And I'm showing you both just so that you can see this is the proper way. This is how you put it in the formula. And this is my kind of method that I usually use in class just to line everything up. All right, let's do the next one in green. This should be our last one here. All right, so we'll do it one more time with both of these. So we have 0.1, helps if I turn my pen on, 0.1, 0.2, and this is the midpoint. So we have 0.1, we have x1, we don't know it, it's a question mark, plus x2, which is 3, divided by 2, and that's going to give me the x coordinate of my midpoint, negative 1. And then I have y2, again, I don't know it, it's a question mark. I'm sorry, y1, I'm being silly now. Getting ahead of myself. y1, because it's a question mark. We do know y2, that is negative 4. And I'm leaving it's plus, so just always remember it's plus negative 4, but plus negative 4 really means minus 4. Divided by 2 equals, and that's going to equal negative 1. So then I multiply by 2, these cancel again. We have x1 plus 3 equals negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. I'm going to subtract 3. X1 comes down, 3 minus 3 cancels, and that's going to equal, they're both negative. It's negative 2 minus 3. So my answer will be negative, and I just add them together. Just like if it was 2 plus 3, you wouldn't question it. You just say 2 plus 3 is 5. Negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. They're both negative. I add them together and keep the negative. All right, we're going to times 2, times 2. These cancel. Y1, and I'm going to actually go ahead and put minus 4 just so that we don't have plus minus. So minus 4 equals negative 2. Add 4 to both sides. So I end up with y1, negative 4 plus 4 cancels, equals negative 2 plus 4. They're opposites now. I subtract my bigger number to sides. So 4 is bigger, so it's a positive 2. So this is negative 5, 2. And again, you can go through and you can plug it into my other formula and get the exact same answer. So I'm just going to go ahead and type this one in since we already have it, and it's our last one here. So you can decide which method makes more sense to you. So if the other one confuses you, my stacked method, use this one because we definitely know here's 0.1, here's 0.2, x, y, x, y, x, y. It always goes x, y in a coordinate. So you can always add these or line these up. I just do have some students that they get a little mixed up with x1, y1, y2, x2. So lining them up makes it a little easier because then we don't have to worry about which one's x1 or x2. It's just lined up. All right, we're going to check, and we're all done with that one.